Hey everybody, so today I'm going to show you how to make a scribble portrait, and I'm going to be using one of my favorite Harry Potter characters, Sirius Black. So let's get right to it. And the first thing that we need to do for this project is we need to insert an image of our Harry Potter character, or whatever it is that you're doing a scribble portrait of. So I'm holding my iPad up and down. Since this is a portrait, I want to hold it in portrait orientation, which is that vertical orientation. But I run into the problem that my top toolbar doesn't display all of its tools when I'm in portrait orientation. So just be sure if you're looking for that image insert icon and you can't see it, you may need to scroll that over to the left a little bit to reveal it. But don't worry, it is there. Once you find that image insert icon, that's when you can go ahead and you can insert the image from your camera roll of your favorite Harry Potter character or whatever it is that you would like to be drawing. Now, while we're still in the same insertion screen, and I can tell it's that screen because it doesn't have my brushes or my layer panels on the side, this is where I'm going to use my pincher fingers to reshape and resize this. We always want to be filling our entire canvas to create a nice composition. So I want to make sure I'm using my pinchers to pinch it either bigger or smaller. And then I'm kind of playing around with the composition. Does he look better in the middle? Is it better if he's down here? So I'm going to put him off to the side just a little bit. So it's kind of like an interesting composition, a little bit different than what we're used to. Sure, you could use these adjustment tools up at the top, but I think for this project, just using our pincher fingers is the best way to go. Once you're happy with your size and with your orientation, or whether it's tilted this way or that way or how it's arranged, that's when you can go ahead and click done. Now I have my image inserted right here on one of my layers. The next thing I want to do is lighten this image up so that I can see the lines that I draw on top of it. To lighten your image, you want to look for that layer with your image on it and be sure that it's highlighted in blue. If it's not highlighted in blue, remember just clicking on the box will move that little blue highlight around it. And once it is highlighted in blue, click it one more time to open up your settings box. This is where you find your opacity meter, or this is where you're going to tell us how see-through this image is going to be. And you're going to go ahead and take this little slider and move it down to about halfway, but not below. We want this image to be lightened quite a bit, but I still want to be able to see all of those details on his face. Once you've lightened it to around 50, I'm at 51, so it's not perfect. That's when I'm going to click in the gray area to make that settings box disappear. Now I need to start making my lines. So you can see up here I've added my inking pen to my double puck. I've selected the color black. But now if I go to draw, you notice this line is gray. So that's my first sign that I haven't created a new layer to be drawing on. So if you run into this problem and you're like, hey, I already selected black, why does it look gray? Stop right there. Remember, you have this back arrow up here. Click that one time to make that gray line disappear, and before you do anything else, come over here to your layers panel on the right-hand side and give yourself a new layer. Remember, this previous layer was lightened, so that's why the black we were drawing with is lightened. Now, when I go to draw, you can see that my line is a deep black color, so I know I'm on my correct layer. But before I get started, I want to do a couple of things to my drawing pen. First and foremost, I have a lot of detail here, so I want to make sure that I'm setting the size pretty small. To set our size today, we're going to use our quick size selector, which is this tiny little tab. And when you click on it, it pops out a little bit. But what I really like about it, let me move my double puck out of the way here, is that when you use this tab, it gives you a preview of the size of the line you're going to be drawing with. So I'm going to keep my line size pretty small. I'm going to be working with about a 4. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at this bottom tab. This is our quick set tab for opacity. So I'm going to click on that. It's going to pop out just like that top tab did. And it's going to tell us how see-through our lines are going to be. So I'm going to start out by taking the opacity right down to about 50%. That should give me sort of like a gray line to get started with. Then I'm ready to go ahead and start scribbling in all the light gray areas of this portrait. So I have to ask myself, what's light gray, what's dark gray, and what's black? So this is going to be my lightest value around his eyes and around his face. So I can just go ahead and start making my little scribbles anywhere that I see this kind of like in between gray. I'm trying to stay away from where there's that darker black. Now, you could be using little straight lines, you could be using little scribbly lines like I am. It's totally up to you, the type of line that you choose to use. You could even use a mixture. But you notice, I'm keeping this really, really kind of like wiggly and squiggly. So I'm definitely kind of just coloring. And I see a gray area in here. It's not quite black. So I don't want to go into that area where it's black. But basically, I guess this is like the gray value that I'm getting from maybe the hair on his head or on his beard there. There's a little bit of gray happening here, but then it stops. I have this little gray edge around here. And you guys can always work into this a little bit more. I mean, if I were doing this on my own, I might even go ahead and pick a smaller brush size, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know that you probably want to get to work on this as well. So you can see, again, it's really important that I'm missing those areas that have the really dark black in them. And I'm just going around and scribbling in any areas that are kind of gray. Sometimes going with the shape of what I'm coloring in makes it look a little bit more like what it's supposed to be. And I'm definitely using my pincher fingers to allow me to get a little bit closer so I have a better view. But again, I'm going just for the lighter gray areas. Okay, so I'm staying away from the pupil there. I'm really focusing on these lighter gray areas, especially like this one here on the side of the nose, this little area right in here. So I just want to make sure that I'm not missing any of them. Like I see some here, a little bit of that light gray there. Now, once I have my light gray, I'm ready to start adding some of those deeper values in. So I'm going to go ahead over here to my layer panel, and I'm going to create a new layer. Remember, almost every time that we're working on a new part of the drawing, we want a new layer. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click the plus at the top of my layers panel, and I'm going to come over here to my opacity quick selector, and I'm going to move this up, and we're at 50 now. We're going to go to 75. So it's going to be a darker gray, but not that much darker. And now I'm going to start to work into those areas that are a little bit darker. Again, staying away from the areas that are black, and also staying away from the areas that are super, super white. But you can see this is helping me get another value in here. So I'm getting that like kind of middle value. There's some here. Now we can see his hair is starting to get some like edges to it. Follow along where I have some of those other grays that were working their way into some darker colors. Now I could probably get in here and get this darker area on the eyebrow, and then I have the eyelid. And again, these are just little scribbles. I see a little bit of a darker area here. I definitely have a darker area in the nostrils there and coming around the side there a little bit. And his lips are definitely creating a darker value in here. A little bit on the beard there, and then it definitely gets darker as we work our way down here. And again, I'm keeping them pretty loose, pretty light. These are scribbly lines. If I feel like I continue to scribble the same direction, I might even just change the direction of the scribble. But it's important that you watch this image grow. Don't question yourself. I mean, if you see a dark area there, go ahead and add some scribbles there. The more free you are, the better these tend to turn out. So you can see I'm starting to really get some serious black going on here. Again, and I don't want to overblend. So I don't want to go right in and cover up all that black. So I still do have areas that are really dark as well as areas that are really light. So the final thing I'm going to do is come back over to that opacity selector. Only this time when I click it and pull that tab up, I'm going to put it all the way up. So now my opacity is at 100. Now I'm back to that really, really dark black line. So now I can look for my darkest blacks and go ahead and start to fill them in. And who better to use for this project than Serious Black? I always have to be punny. You know me. Punny, Mrs. B. So now I'm finding all those super, super dark values. So now is a good time to go ahead and put in those pupils. They're going to be the darkest value because they are black and open. Definitely have some of that really dark value here in the nose and maybe a little bit down there. Some of that darkest value here on his lips. I can see it right through those lines underneath. And then I'm checking, oh, he's got a dark area right in here. You know, I have some darker areas in the hair, and then definitely his clothes here. So I'm going to come in with this other kind of line, but he's got that black shirt on. So I want to make sure that I'm darkening that up. And I can see it still here in this original image. So we're getting there. I hope that you guys enjoy this. It's really laid back. It's cool to watch your images grow like this. So go ahead and I'm going to work on his shoulder over here. And again, you can see by changing the direction that I'm creating my scribbles, it's also kind of giving these a little bit more form, you know. And I can always check over here. This is really dark. That must be why I kept it so light and not colored in. So over here I see that that's really, really dark. That must need a lot of this stuff here. And I just want to go ahead and put one final layer of scribbles, making sure I didn't miss any areas that maybe I didn't address, thinking that it was a highlight or something. All this dark area around his shirt here. And now what you're going to see is that when I come back over here to my layers panel, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on that layer of that picture again. Once I have it highlighted in blue, I'm going to click it one more time. Only this time I'm going to find that trash can. So if you look in these first top two rows of functions, the last function in the second row is a trash can. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click that. When I remove that image in the background, I get this really expressive line drawing that still manages to hold on to the likeness of Sirius Black. Once you're all done with your drawing, that's when, however many layers it took you to do this, you can go ahead and click on that top layer. Once that top layer is highlighted, click it again. And now we're going to put these all onto one canvas. So now right next to that delete button that we just used, you see this merge all. This is going to merge all of those different layers together. So I'm going to go ahead and click merge all. Now I have one canvas with this beautiful scribble portrait that's very expressive, that really shows the use of line and our use of value, and still manages to maintain what the person or character that you chose looks like. So I hope you enjoyed Scribble Portraits with Mrs. B.